What's going on, guys? Welcome back to We Want Picks. My name is Jacob, aka the Freckled Salamander, here to bring you my quick pick video for UFC 309. But before we get into this week's quick pick video, make sure you like the video, subscribe if you are new, and if you haven't become a premium member yet, I don't know what in the hell we gotta do. WeWantPicks.com. It's only $10 a month, not $10 a week, not $10 a $10 a month. That means for a few cards, 1, 2, 3, 4 cards, 10 divided by 4, that's something like $2 and some cents per card, and we've been absolutely fucking destroying it. I've been up money 5 straight cards. I believe 11 of the last 14 weeks. I think Angelo has been up money 9 of the last 10 weeks. 5 straight safety parlays have been hitting. I've been absolutely crushing live stream bets as well. So if you want to support the channel, get something back in return. I try to tell you guys, just give us a chance. What, $10? You're going to put $10 on a nonsense parlay? Well, guess what? You've been missing out. You missed out on basically 5 straight. I mean, it's been crazy the amount of profit we've been bringing in for the premium members, and it's only $10 a month. WeWantPicks.com. Give us a try. Check us out. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But we have over 4,000 premium members. You understand? 4,000 premium members. You think if we didn't know what the fuck we were doing, 4,000 fucking people would sign up every month, week after week? I think Ansel told me it's all over 4,100 now. People keep signing up because we're the best in the business. Enough of the nonsense, though. Let's get right into the action. Quick pick video for UFC 309. First up, we have Veronica versus Eduarda Moura. I'm telling you right now, look over my right shoulder. Look over my right shoulder. I've been pretty hot with the female picks. Picked 9 of the last 10 correctly. Since 304, I'm at a 73% pick rate. That's pretty good. And in this fight, one of 2 female fights on the card, I am going with the dog here. I like Veronica Hardy. Beautiful woman. No doubt about that. Tough son of a bitch. No doubt about that. Good in the striking. Is going to have the striking advantage in this fight. She's got to stay away. She's got to stick and move. But she has found issues later on in fights, especially against bigger girls. Now we have Eduarda Moura no longer killing herself going to 115. Missed weight both times in the UFC. Now at 125. Not fighting a big 125. Veronica Hardy should probably be at 115 as well. Now she's at 125. Gonna be big, filled up. Should probably clean up the cardio issues. And what we saw against Diniz, that was a close fight. She was getting a little bit desperate with the takedowns, but she never fucking quit. She was coming into fights absolutely mauling girls. She faced adversity and never stopped. Her body failed her. Her cardio failed her, but she shot like 26 takedowns in that fight. I have all the world in the belief. What? I have all the faith in the world that Eduarda is going to get this fight to the ground. If she does, I think she got a major advantage in the size. We've seen her control women time and time again. If Veronica has been controlled on the ground by bigger girls, Horth, JJ Aldrich, and Eduarda is even better than everyone there. So I'm going with the dog to start the card off with Moura. Let's move on to the next one. So we got Oban Elliott versus Bassil Hafez. Bassil Hafez after going to fucking war with Gall getting dropped by Gall. Couldn't take down Gall. Now a big dog versus guy Oban Elliott, who was an absolute fucking animal. You saw against Preston Parsons, defended the takedowns, got his own takedowns, was lighting Preston up. I believe that Preston Parsons is a more pressure fighter, can set up his shots better, and is a better grappler than a guy like Bassil Hafez. And Oban had really no issues with Preston Parsons. So, push comes to shove, 1 + 1 = 2. I'm going Oban Elliott over Bassil Hafez. I know Bassil's a tough dude. He throws heavy. Oban's been dropped before, but I don't think the takedowns are going to be there. I think Oban's going to stick and move, maybe get some offensive wrestling on his own. I'm going Oban Elliott. Let's move on to the next one. Gall versus Ramiz Brahimaj. Ramiz wants to do one thing. He wants to get the fight to the ground. He hopes it's easy. He wants to get on top of you. He wants to get your back, and he wants to choke you out. This seems, to me, like a tailor-made fight for Gall. Gall, as I just mentioned against Bassil Hafez, showed off some good takedown defense, showed off some hands, some interesting power from Gall. I know he's 7-6. I know he's struggled. I know he's lost. But against this guy Ramiz, who came in against Temba and looked like, oh, he was supposed to come in off a layoff and be this. he looked uninterested. Tembo was just basically holding him up against the fence. Ramiz is just, grabbing onto an overhook, like looking at his corner, like, hey, we're doing our best here. You know what I mean? I just see the fire. And I know that Mickey Gall, 7-6, but he's a tough dude. He's going to be in there. He's going to be fighting. And since his chin is probably not going to get tested, which has been his downfall in the past, I got to go Mickey Gall. I think he withstands the grappling, keeps it on the feet, and outstrikes this guy. And if it gets to the grappling, he can hold his own, or should be able to hold his own, even though this guy's like a world champion, blah, blah, blah. I'm going Mickey Gall. Let's move on to the next one. Tybura versus Jhonata Diniz. And I'm a Diniz hater. No doubt about that. I don't think he's as good as people think he is. I think he's an overrated power. I think he gets hit. Obviously, he can get taken down. When he gets taken down, he looks like he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. I'm going Diniz. I just don't like the injuries of Tybura. I know he took down Tai Tuivasa, got kind of lit up in the process, was very sloppy with that entry. Obviously, if he can get this fight to the ground, that's where he wants to be. He's not a all-in wrestler. It's not like that's his game plan, but I have assuming that since he came in with that game plan versus Ty, that's going to be the same game plan versus Diniz. I just think he's going to get touched on the entries, and it just feels like a buy low spot for Diniz against a guy who kind of has shown he can have a baby chin with reckless entries. You get baby chins versus reckless entries, and you're not really an all-in wrestler. You just kind of know how to wrestle. It just seems like a bad recipe. I haven't bet on Diniz because I think he's a little bit overrated, but in this spot, I think I kind of like him. I know the kind of the public dog, and a lot of people are going to be back in Tybura this week. I think Diniz could show up and show out in a big spot, MSG. I'm going with my Brazilian brother, Jhonata Diniz. Let's move on to the next one. Jim Miller versus Damon Jackson. I'm going Damon Jackson here. These are a couple older guys. Obviously, Jim is a little bit older than Damon Jackson. I think Jim is finally kind of on his way out. He has some good wins against some lower level competition. They kind of stepped him up versus Bobby Green, got the absolute fucking dog pissed out of him. Now, Damon Jackson's not going to come in, pump that jab out there and have the speed of Bobby Green, but he is a good striker. And if you don't put this guy out, he's going to be kind of nonstop, either in the wrestling, in the grappling, or even in the striking. I just think Jim Miller's going to be a little bit step behind, and if he doesn't find that power shot, he's not going to be able to go to his wrestling. I had Jim Miller as my lock of the week against Mowgli to start the year. I think it was that the first card of the year, maybe something like that, one of the early cards. He was my lock of the week. There was a reason for that, but even in that fight versus Mowgli, I was like, man, this is closer than I thought it was going to be. Against a guy like Damon Jackson, who's still hungry, who still thinks he can be a guy in the division, I'm going Damon Jackson versus Jim Miller. Let's move on to the next one. Chris Weidman versus Eryk Anders. This, to me, has all the makings of a split decision, right? Eryk Anders not the most dangerous guy. Chris Weidman's not the most dangerous guy. Eryk Anders, I know, got chinned a little bit by Jamie Pickett recover. We've seen Chris Weidman get chinned. I'm going Chris Weidman here, because if it's a close fight in MSG, I know that Chris Weidman kind of has some bad karma built up with the eye pokes and the decision and all that stuff in his last fight versus Bruno Silva. But in this fight, when Eryk Anders, what his default go-to is to hold you against the fence and try to wrestle, he shouldn't be able to wrestle a guy like Chris Weidman. I do believe that if Chris Weidman tries to push him against the fence and wrestle, he could get a couple takedowns on a guy like Eryk Anders, who isn't quite as tall as Bruno Silva. So I think it's a close fight, a back and forth fight, a grindy type on the fence fight, and I'm going to take Chris Weidman to win more minutes and to get the judge's nod in this decision. So I'm going Chris Weidman. Let's move on to the next one. Jonathan Martinez versus Marcus McGhee. And I honestly broke this fight down, and I was going to pick Jonathan Martinez. I rewatched that Aldo fight, and I'm like, he didn't look terrible. And that, I know that, he was the favorite, and people say he laid an egg and he was kind of frozen in there. And I think that all that can be true. But that's Jose Aldo, right? The hand speed of Jose Aldo is almost second to none in the counter striking. So when Jonathan was trying to pressure and getting countered, he kind of didn't know what to do at that point. Marcus McGhee is a very good fighter, very well-rounded fighter, a pressure fighter, is not going to have the hand speed of Jose Aldo. So I think Jonathan Martinez is a lot more live in this fight than people realize, but reached out to some contacts. Hey, how's he doing? Factory X. Oh, he's left Factory X. Looked at his Instagram. Oh, he started his own gym in Lubbock, Texas. He's the head coach and the owner. So I don't know what's going on with John Martinez. I don't know if he's coming in with just his boys as his corner and he's just going to kind of wing it in there. But it sounds like, and I know for a fact, he's not at Factory X anymore. And it looks like he's kind of doing his own thing, kind of running his own camp. And typically, That's not a good situation, especially against a guy as smart, as well-rounded, and at a big gym with real coaches like a guy like Marcus McGhee. So I was going to pick Jhonata Martinez. I still think that if he brings in the capabilities that he has, that this can be a good fight and he can win this fight. But I gotta go Marcus McGhee. He's with the real camp. He's prepared. He's well-rounded. Maybe he's gonna mix in the wrestling. I just think the pressure is gonna be a little bit too much. But I'm not gonna be crazy surprised if Jhonata Martinez pulls this off. I think it's a little bit of a buy low spot for Jonathan because of that Aldo fight. People think that he's shit now, but that's Jose Aldo. He's gonna outbox pretty much anybody. So this is a little bit close one. I'm not betting Marcus McGhee, but I'm gonna pick him to win this fight. Mauricio Ruffy versus James Llontop. I gotta go Ruffy here, right? Fighting nerds, big favorite. The biggest issue here is going to be the hand speed. I know that Llontop's a tough dude, and he started looking better in that Slava fight as the fight went on. He looked like he was really kind of stuck in the mud early, then started finding his flow state. I know he's a tough dude, but he does eat shots. But even when he was kind of in a little bit more of a flow state, the speed advantage here for Ruffy should be like 2-1. I think Ruffy's going to be way too fast for a guy like James Llontop. Now, James is tough, and if he can stay in the pocket and get Ruffy to extend a combination and find him in that extended combination, he's got enough power to sit anybody down. And Ruffy has been sat down in the past, but Ruffy, stick and move. He usually is just kind of a one and done kind of guy. Boom, 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 boom. But if he stays in there like an Elliott combination where he's trying to headhunt, body shot, and come up with a shot, Llontop could find something in there. But I gotta go Ruffy all the way, my Brazilian brother. Fighting nerds till I fucking die. No doubt about that. Let's move on to the next one. Karine Silva versus Vivi. Araujo. I like Vivi. I'm a big fan of Vivi. She's tough. She's a good wrestler. She does enough in the striking to get to the wrestling. But the issue with Vivi, and this is not a 5-round fight, so it's not going to be quite as an issue, but she does slow down. And if she can't get the takedown, she can get hit in the striking. Karine Silva, I just believe it's going to be maybe not in the pure wrestling, but I think she's just a little bit sharper everywhere. A little bit sharper in the striking. Will take her time. I think her cardio is going to be a little bit better. Obviously, if Vivi can get her on her back early, she's going to have some success, but she's got to do it for over 2 rounds, and I don't know if she's going to be able to do that because Karine, even on the ground, is so slick with her jiu-jitsu, her sweeps. So even if Vivi gets her to the ground, I don't know if she's going to be able to hold her to the ground, and if she is just on top, she's going to be in danger the entire time anyway. So I'm going Karine here. I kind of understand the odds. I wouldn't be crazy surprised if this is in the first round. If, Vivi has some success and the live odds start closing after the first round, you might get Karine minus 150, something like that. But I fully expect Karine to win this fight and maybe even find a late finish for a girl like Vivi. I just think she's a little bit too sharp everywhere. So that's my pick. I hate that. I hate it. Brazilian versus Brazilian females. It breaks my heart. But there's the pick rate lately. I'm going Karine. Let's move on to the next one. Bo Nickal versus Paul Craig. You guys know my hate for Bo Nickal, right? I can't stand Bo Nickal. I think Bo Nickal's overrated. I think his striking is overrated. You kind of saw against Cody Brundage that maybe his wrestling might be a little bit overrated too. Brundage was stuffing some takedowns, throw his ass against the fence. Cody Brundage did not lose a fight. He lost the wrestling match, but he won the fight, in my opinion. I thought he fucking dominated Paul Craig. All right, man, I thought he dominated Bo Nickal in that fight. As much as I want to pick Paul Craig, and obviously, if Bo takes him down, Paul's always going to be live for that triangle type situation. Paul Craig doesn't have a chin, not a good striker. Bo showed some decent speed with his hands. I don't like the way he throws punches sometimes, but honestly, it feels like Bo Nickal might just come through and just knock Paul Craig out. But even if he wants to wrestle, I think he's well-versed enough in the wrestling to be able to stay safe. I know kind of against Craig Jones, I think, or maybe it was against the other steroid-induced whatever, dude. I think it actually was the bearded Ryan Gordon guy. Threw him in a triangle, an armbar, and in a grappling match. A little bit different when you can punch people in the face as well. Paul Craig doesn't react to punches very well. I'm going Bo Nickal here. Let's move on to the next one. It's Oliveira versus Michael Chandler. And I'll be honest, I think Michael Chandler is kind of corny, and I honestly can't wait for him to be done. right? There is no way in hell I'm picking Michael Chandler against Charles Do Bronx Oliveira. Obviously, the first fight, Do Bronx had some issues, had to survive the first round, but then you saw what happened in that fight. I believe Charles Oliveira is the more technical striker, the better striker, obviously better on the ground as well, whether he's on his back or on top. This is going to be a tall task for Michael Chandler. I assume he's going to blitz in and just try to find the chin of Charles again, and maybe they get in a firefight, and maybe he is able to find that chin, but that's too much of a Hail Mary situation for me. I got to go Charles Oliveira. He's just the better fighter. He's already proved that once. He even worked through adversity already in that first fight. I think he comes in, expects the blitz from Charles, or expects the blitz from Michael, stays ready with those Muay Thai counters. Maybe he gets a takedown of his own. I got to go Charles Oliveira here. Hopefully it gets done inside the distance. 5-round fight, but I don't think it's going to make a difference. Michael Chandler's been pent up with a lot of rage the last fucking couple years. He is going to go for it from the opening bell. This one could be over quickly. We'll see what happens. I got to go do Bronx. Let's move on to the main event. Main event time. We got Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic. And let me just say, I am relatively new to the UFC and the grand scheme of UFC as a sport. When I started watching UFC, one of my first UFC events was Holly Holm beating Ronda. I've never watched Ronda Rousey win a fucking fight. So when people talk about the greatness of Ronda Rousey, I'm like, shouldn't seem that fucking great to me. Obviously, I've seen the highlights. I know what she is. The second card I watched was Conor McGregor starching Jose Aldo. So this is the timeline of when I watched the UFC. The reason I bring that up is I've never seen Jon Jones as this dominant guy. I know he is. I've seen the highlights. I've seen the finishes, right? I've seen the wars that he's been in with Gustafsson. I know who Jon Jones is. I respect who he is. But the only thing that I've seen from Jon Jones is barely winning fights, except for the Ciryl Gane fight that I watched in person where I'm like, wait, the fight's over. What the fuck just happened? I'm like, just hammered. Lower section, 15 rows up. Also, I'm looking at the screen. I'm like, oh, he's just kind of on the fence. And then Jon Jones is celebrating. I look at my friend, and I'm looking at and I'm like, what just happened? What just happened? The fight's over. What the fuck just happened? Ciryl Gane, what the fuck was that? Ciryl Gane was not ready for that fight. So I say all that because I'm not a big Jon Jones guy. I just don't. I know he's good, but when this fight was supposed to happen last year, I was like, God, I think I'm taking Stipe because Jon Jones isn't the most dangerous guy in the world, right? He's kind of a volume striker, and at heavyweight he's shown he kind of wants to default to the wrestling, and Stipe definitely knows how to wrestle. Stipe is a very good boxer. Stipe is a tough son of a bitch. Stipe is the greatest heavyweight of all time in most people's eyes. So last year when this fight was supposed to happen, I was like, I think I'm going to take Stipe on the upset. Now a year later, right? And Jon Jones is kind of fully recovered from that injury. A little bit leaner, a little bit nastier. He's starting to hear all the trash talk from Tom Aspinall, and he's not this, and I want to do that, and everyone's hyping him up about being the GOAT. There's one thing that's for sure, always going to be rock solid, and that is the mentality of Jon Jones. And this has nothing to do with Stipe. Stipe has his own mentality. He was a champion. He's a tough son of a bitch. But I don't believe that as close as this fight could be in the wrestling, in the back and forth, in the boxing, it just feels like this is Jon Jones' moment to really double down and prove that he is the GOAT, right? The timing with the 12-6 elbows coming back and the commission is talking about removing the only loss on his record and the GOAT stuff. It just feels like, and the odds reflect that there is no way that Jon Jones is going to let himself win the fight. If Stipe was maybe a little bit more dangerous, I might be able to find a path, whatever, but Stipe is not the most dangerous guy. Is he going to take down Jon Jones? Probably not. Is he going to outbox him? If he has some boxing success, Jon Jones is probably just going to go to the wrestling. In the grappling, he's going to finally have those 12-6 elbows. So I got to go Jon Jones here. I think it could be closer than people expect because Stipe, Stipe, man. And he's kind of one of those guys that, when all the odds are against him, he might show up and surprise some people. But I gotta go Jon Jones. I've only missed 2 pay-per-view main event picks the entire year. That was the Steve Erceg and then Sean O'Malley versus Merab. I've got every single other one right. We're gonna try to keep it going this week with Jon Jones. This has been my quick pick video for UFC 309. Make sure you like the video. Subscribe if you are new. My name's Jacob, aka the Farthest Sky. I'm out. Peace.